Alors, alors, si.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are all welcome to the 34th inaugural lecture of our university. Any moment from now, the Vice Chancellor procession will enter into this hall. And I want to quickly seek your indulgence. As soon as the Vice Chancellor procession enter into the hall, let us all rise and remain standing. Once again, if this is your first time of visiting our university, we warmly welcome you to Adekunle Ajasin University. As I have said, the Vice Chancellor procession will be joining us in a few seconds. Please, shall we all rise and remain standing? Please, shall we take the national anthem and AAUA anthem? Thank you very much. Please, shall we pray be seated? Please, shall we settle down? Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Oloruntoba-Oju, I warmly welcome you all to the 34th inaugural lecture of this university. May I say, if this is your first time of visiting our university, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, you are warmly welcome. Today's inaugural lecture is titled, What Literature Told Me, What the Theater Taught Me, Performance and Resistance Across Time and Space. The lecture is going to be delivered by Professor Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju. Professor Oloruntoba-Oju is a professor of African and Caribbean drama theater. Can we put our hands together? May I also add that Professor Oloruntoba-Oju is the 5th female professor to deliver inaugural lecture in Inaugural University. That's not all. She is the 7th professor from the Faculty of Arts to deliver inaugural lecture in our university. Well, without mixing words, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I want to say that I want to affirm my optimistic that today's inaugural lecture is going to be an interesting one. Distinguished principal officers of this university, deans, directors, professors, HODs and HOUs, staff of this university, and our dear students, once again, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, you are warmly welcome to the 34th inaugural lecture of this university. Without wasting much of your time, let me invite to the microphone the chairman of this occasion, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Oloruntoba-Oju, as he presents the 34th inaugural lecture to this August.
Thank you very much. The members of the university management, deans of faculties, heads of department, distinguished professors, our men of God, in our midst, the family and guests of the inaugural lecturer, staff and students of Adekunle-Ajasin University, the inaugural lecturer, Professor Mrs. Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure and immense honor I welcome you all to the 34th inaugural lecture of our great institution at Adekunle-Ajasin University, Akungba Akoko. And the inaugural lecturer for today's event is Professor Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the greatest honor to introduce this professor to all of us here. Just listening to the university anthem. This professor standing here composed it. Professor Mrs. Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju is a composer. She is a creator. She's a director. She's an innovator and an inventor. As a sign of respect and honor to her for this day, I want everybody in this hall to stand up once again and render that university anthem in her honor. In her honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me also add that the university flag, which the young man there is holding, raise it up, raise the university flag up. Professor Mrs. Oloruntoba-Oju partook in the design and production of the university flag. happy to welcome you as we deliver the 34th inaugural lecture of this great citadel of knowledge. Let me also thank you for your contribution to the development of this university. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, an inaugural lecture represents a significant milestone in a professor's career. It is a momentous occasion marking their formal entry into the highest ranks of academic excellence. More importantly, this is an opportunity for the university community to celebrate their scholarship and contributions to knowledge. Today, we gather here to honor Professor Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju, an exceptional scholar of African and Caribbean drama and theater, a prolific researcher, an outstanding academic, and a mentor to many. We recognize her remarkable contributions to academia, particularly the fields of literature and theater, and celebrate her unwavering commitment to advancing knowledge. The topic of today's lecture, what literature told me, what the theater taught me, performance and resistance across time and space, is intriguing. We not only allow our distinguished lecturer to share her groundbreaking research, but also provide deep insights into the role of drama in shaping communal identity, the importance of interdisciplinary collaborations between literature and theater, and the need to integrate drama to various disciplines. Ladies and gentlemen, the journey of Professor Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju is one of resilience, dedication, and scholarly brilliance. Began academic pursuits, the Bachelor of Arts degree in English and Performing Arts from the University of Ilorin in 1985. Proceeded to obtain a master's degree in theater art from the University of Ibadan in 1987, and later earned a Doctor of Philosophy, PhD in Literature in English from the University of Ilorin in 1997. She joined Adekunle Ajashin University on February 26, 2006 as a senior lecturer in the Department of English Studies. Through sheer hard work and academic distinction, she rose ranks to become a professor in 2015. Throughout her lecturer career, Professor Oloruntoba-Oju has made tremendous contributions to scholarship and has remained dedicated to mentoring the next generation of academics. He has authored and co-authored several books, edited volumes, a monograph, and over 40 scholarly articles, all of which have contributed immensely to her feet. Beyond her teaching and research responsibilities, she has served the university in several capacities, including acting head of the Department of English Studies, pioneer acting director of Ajashin University Theatre, pioneer head of the Department of Performing Arts, member board of the Center for Diploma and Pre-Degree Programs, chairperson drama subcommittee of the University Ceremonies Committee, member Faculty of Science Examination Malpractice Committee, chairperson and member editorial board of AAUA, Faculty of Arts, and Journal of Humanities International, and editor-in-chief and managing editor of the Akumba Journal of English and Communication Studies, among others. Not only is Professor Oloruntoba-Oju a renowned academic, she is also a highly talented artist. She is the composer of the lyrics of the AAUA anthem, and contributed to the design and production of the university flag. Her creativity extends to directing several convocation plays, command performances, and numerous stage productions, including but not limited to Trials of Brother Jero, Behold My Redeemer, The Gods Are Not to Blame, The Restless Run of the Locust, Efun Shetan Aniwura, The Reigns of Wasobia, Women of Owu, and Yemoja, and several others. Professor Mrs. Oju has also directed 2 state commission drama productions for the Ondo State government and founded the Junior Pen Writers International. Over the years, Professor Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju has received numerous awards, honors, and recognitions. He is an Edinburgh Catalyst Fellow at the University of Edinburgh and a recipient of the Best Literature Student Prize at the University of Ilorin. In 2013, Senate of Adekunle Ajasin University Akuba Akoko specially commended her contributions. She's a member of several professional bodies, including the Caribbean Studies Association, the Association for the Study of Worldwide African Diaspora, Society of Nigerian Theatre Artists, the Association of Nigerian Authors, and the Lagos Studies Association, among several others. In addition to her many accomplishments, Professor Oloruntoba-Oju serves as an external examiner for PhD candidates at the University of Ibadan, Obafemi Awolowo University Ile-Ife, Federal University Oyo-Ekiti, and the Ekiti State University Ado-Ekiti. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a day of celebration, reflection, and intellectual engagement. Let us join together in celebrating the academic achievements of Professor Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju and welcoming the intellectual discourse that is set to deliver. I am confident that today's lecture, what literature told me, what the theater taught me, performance and resistance across time and space, will be an enlightening, thought-provoking, and inspiring discourse. Do not doubt that it will spark meaningful discussions and contribute significantly to the advancement of knowledge within our academic community. This junction, it is my honor and pleasure to invite to the podium a distinguished professor of African and Caribbean drama and theater, a scholar, a playwright, a composer, a poet, a drama director, a stage expert, and a researcher. Professor Omotayo Oloruntoba-Oju to deliver the 34th inaugural lecture of Adekunle Ajasin University Akuba Akoko. Happy listening. Thank you.
The Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Registrar, the Bursar, the University Librarian, Deans, Directors and Heads of Departments, Stroke Units, Vice Chancellors and Principal Officers from other institutions, Your Royal Highnesses and Chiefs, my Lords spiritual and temporal, my academic colleagues, members of the congregation, and other members of staff, invited guests and friends of Adekunle Ajasin University, gentlemen of the press, all my students, past and present, great Nigerian students, greatest Nigerian students, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, this inaugural lecture is the first in the Department of English Studies and the first in the fields of drama, theater, and the performing arts in this institution. I thank God the Almighty for the gift of life and for the grace to be here today, Tuesday, 11th February 2025, to present the 34th inaugural lecture of this institution with the title, What Literature Told Me, What the Theater Taught Me, Performance and Resistance Across Time and Space. My journey towards the inaugural lecture today began with quite innocent steps. I was a young girl of 15 when I entered the University of Ilorin in 1981. As a student, I was privileged to fall early in the hands of some of the most competent erudite scholars in the field at the time, the likes of Professor David Cook, Professor Akonji Nasiru, late Professor Zulu Shofola, late Professor Atahanan Mensah, and the late Sierra Leonean playwright and actor Yulisa Amadumadi. They outspoke to this little girl, so small but allegedly so brilliant. I gravitated towards the performing arts. I was fascinated by what I began to closely learn about the trending plays, films, and songs like those of Hubert Ogunde, whom Wole Soyinka described as the grand old man of Nigerian theatre. It is fitting, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, that I begin this outing by invoking the performance aesthetics of the master. The music, the chants, the chattering and the song, the long tradition of the arts and the continuities from the Egungun masquerade to the Alayunjo to the likes of Ogunde and his complete immersion in this tradition. The succeeding practice of the university-trained dramatists like Wole Soyinka, whose plays are immersed in the mask tradition, and to the subversive practice of the likes of Femi Oshofuson, who decided to employ this same tradition for revolutionary purposes. Welcome to the scholarship of literature and drama, to the deep significances of performance, art, and culture, which the non-initiates àwọn àgbèrè do not know. My simultaneous immersion in language and literature in the Department of Modern European Languages broadened my horizon. In the cognate Department of Linguistics, where I compulsorily minored, erudite linguists ensured my grounding in linguistics as well. This was a great scholarly exposure to sift through at a tender age. With the prompting and timely intervention of Professor Akondinosiru, I changed my program to a combination of language and literature in the Department of Modern European Languages and Performing Arts in the Department of Performing Arts. I ultimately graduated with a combined honors in English and the Performing Arts. Later, at the Department of Theatre Arts, University of Ibadan, I came under the tutelage of frontline theatre scholars and professionals, Professors Adeluba and Oshofison, among others. Amongst my classmates on the highly competitive MA in Theatre Arts program were the likes of Professors Marcel Okapo, Emmanuel Emiaselu, and the popular Dr. Ruben Abati. Later in life, arriving at AAUA, that little girl of 15 who came into the university as a pioneer student of the Performing Arts would help to establish the Department of Performing Arts in this university and would become its pioneer head of department. That girl, who opted to combine language, literature, and theatre, would also head the Department of English and Literary Studies here. I'm certainly grateful for the tutelage I had and the opportunities this university has given me. Objectives of the inaugural. My objective in this inaugural is to highlight some of the work that I have done in the scholarship of literature and theatre. I have been specifically interested in the deployment of literary and theatrical aesthetics as catalytic agents of progressive change in society. Two major strands constitute the locus of my intervention: the revolutionary and developmental potential of literature and theatre, and the role of literature and theatre in forging identities of belonging across time and space. The trajectory of literature, what literature told me. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, one of the earliest debates in the literary world concerned the identity and worth of what we call literature, its utility or functionality. In short, its value. A usually referenced starting point of this debate is the Greek philosopher Plato, who famously objected to the arts in general and to poetry in particular. One of my own early contributions as an academic in Oloruntoba-Oju 1999A highlighted this controversy, which conveniently provides a referential frame for my introductory remarks here. Leading themes. The crucial leading themes in literary history concern what literature is and what it is for, or what it should be and what it should be for. In other words, the appreciation of literature has revolved around its nature, form, and function, or its utility, from the classical Greek age to the present. In Africa, many literary giants also weighed in on the issue, including the Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, world-acclaimed novelist and theorist Chinua Achebe, famed Kenyan playwright and post-colonial theorist Ngugi wa Thiong'o, among others. What literature is. At a general level, the term literature may refer to any material in written form, or whose features lend themselves to graphic appraisal. The term literature derived from the Latin word litera, meaning a letter of the alphabet. However, as a discipline, the term literature has more often than not been used to refer to works of art in any of the established literary genres, prose, poetry, and drama, whether oral or written. The term prose, as used in the discipline, covers fictional forms such as novels, novellas, and short stories, as well as non-fictive forms such as biographies, autobiographies, memoirs, media writings, and the genre referred to as fiction, a mixture of fact and fiction. In the specialized sense, therefore, a principal characteristic of literature is aesthetics, a thing of beauty, a product of creativity. As noted recently by Red Rock, the term has traditionally been applied to those imaginative works of poetry and prose distinguished by the perceived aesthetic excellence of their execution. What literature is for. As I hinted at earlier, the Greek philosopher Plato wanted to ban literature from his dream republic. He believed that poetry was but a poor imitation of spiritual reality, and that poetry was capable of teaching immorality to future leaders, leading them by way of inordinate pleasure away from the noble goal of life. If Plato were to have had his way, there would be no literature today, at least from the Western perspective. And maybe I would not be giving this lecture. However, Aristotle, another Greek philosopher and student to Plato, modified this extreme view by insisting that literature imitates ideal existence well. It will bring pleasure in the process. If literature imitates ideal existence well, it will bring pleasure in the process, which would be legitimate. The notion of pleasure itself has been subject to debate. The pleasure of literature as conceived in those early days was not that of mundane amusement or Epicurean enjoyment, but a sense of moral and formal appreciation, the feeling that a work of art satisfies both morality and aesthetics. Horace, Roman philosopher and satirist, clarified the notion of pleasure of literature further in noting that the function of art is both to edify, that is instruct, and to delight, that is give aesthetic satisfaction. It is clear from these early philosophical debates on literature that a major function of literature is to give education, to inform, to elevate the consciousness, to inculcate the sense of good or goodness, and in the process to uplift humanity. Modern ideas of literature. While it was agreed that literature's twin function was to delight in the process of edification, the notion of what literature is or what it is for has not been static over time. The English literary theorist Ram Howe noted that in the modern era, critics who are predominantly concerned with what literature is developed formal theories of literature, while those predominantly concerned with what literature is for developed moral theories. Formal theory of literature. Formal theory of literature concerns the integration of a work of art as art. The belief here is that art is subject to only one law, which is the perfection of art. Three expectations of literature according to formal theory are integritas, consonatia, and claritas. Integritas means that the work of literature is whole within itself. It is it's a self-contained entity. For example, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. On the other hand, consonatia is the demand of cohesion and coherence in a work of art or literature, while claritas or radiance implies that a work of art itself shall satisfy and illuminate by its verbal surface. It is this latter element that distinguishes what we call literature as a literary art form from other forms of communication. Literature creates delight or aesthetics. Or aesthetic satisfaction through sheer verbal brilliance and energy. Moral theory of literature. Oloruntoba-Oju 1999A notes that moral theory focuses on what literature is for, and especially its contribution to society and the progress of humanity at large. In other words, moral theory sees literature in utilitarian terms, how it reflects society, how it sharpens our view of life and culture, and ultimately how it shapes humanity. In short, literature is exemplary, offering models of conduct and of interaction in society. The formal and moral theories of literature, as briefly highlighted above, are not mutually exclusive. In Aristotelian terms, the morality of the story or tale is part and parcel of its aesthetics. And in some cases, the morality properly defined is the aesthetics. implications of the moral formal debate. Considerations such as the above have shaped attitudes to literature over the century. Modern frameworks have become more complex, sometimes enigmatic, and sometimes esoteric. Some frameworks such as aestheticism, formalism, modernism, expressionism, practical criticism, naturalism, and others do continue to separate aesthetic form from moral function. However, critical interventions have moved from the generalized ideas of literature to try to account for specificities of content and form in relation to ideas of society. For example, they attempt to account for spatial or locational exigencies, race, culture, class, gender, and sundry ideologies. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir. Oloruntoba-Oju 2024 also proposed an umbrella terminology for the consideration of critics in the field, which I called Afrocentrism, which covers all literature that is concerned with African issues. My work has focused largely on the revolutionary potential of literature and theater by elucidating this potential in the works of writers, artists, and dramatists from Africa and the African diaspora, especially the Caribbean, literature in Africa and in Nigeria. In Africa, debate about the role of literature, of writers and artists has also raged widely. It has become well established, more so within the context of within the African context, that literature is an instrument of social engineering for catalyzing and calibrating the struggles of society, of the oppressed classes of society, and of the oppressed nations of the world. In Africa, literature and theater were center stage in the struggle for the independence of the nations of Africa. Examples include the Pan-Africanist Kwame Nkrumah's book, Africa Must Unite, Kenneth Kaunda's Zambia Shall Be Free, Jomo Kenyatta's Facing Mount Kenya, Peter Abraham's Tell Freedom, Nelson Mandela's I Am Prepared to Die, etc. The role of literature is therefore well established. Mirrors society and culture, shines a light on the past and helps to envision the future. It helps to preserve the values, beliefs, customs, and languages of the people. It instills moral and ethical values. It illuminates human identity and the associated values. It helps to educate or edify, expanding the frontiers of knowledge, exposing new ideas, and challenging the intellect, among others. It serves as the conscience of society and helps to mobilize consciousness and foster resistance in the environment of repression. What theater taught me. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I have referred repeatedly to literature in the above remarks, while using the term theater occasionally. The two terms are conceptually interchangeable, as most of what I have said about literature applies to theater as well. Theater is literature in visual display. It is literature in the performance mode or in theatrical form. The classical distinction between dramatic literature and theater is that the latter is a performative representation of the former. Theater is drama on stage or on other performance media such as television, film, and more recently, the internet and social media. Literature comes alive through stage action and theatrical expression. Theater is also the most communal of all art forms. In the course of my academic and professional work in the theater, I've learned a lot about this communal imperative of theater and the inherent mobilizational potential. I have also learned of the continuities between history, performance, and resistance. How performances serve as a bridge across time and space. How performances serve as manifests of identity. and indeed how contemporary dramatists draw from ancient models of performance to achieve revolutionary and mobilizational objectives in the theater. I have investigated the continued deployment of ancient idioms in contemporary Nigerian literature, drama, theater, and film in African settings in general and in the African diaspora. Of particular interest is the masked idiom, whose traces occur like palimpsest dots in the works of generations of dramatists. My book, Towards an African Theatre Aesthetics, Oloruntoba-Oju, 2014a, largely employed the works of two contemporary Nigerian playwrights, Wole Soyinka and Femi Oshofuson, as paradigms to exemplify these continuities with ample references to the adjacent, before and after generations. I've expended several research articles on cognate aspects of performance in African and Caribbean sector, history and performance, continuities across time. Contemporary theater and performance in African societies are clearly a product of the complex histories of the respective societies. In the Yoruba-speaking areas, theater is traced to the ritual practices of the Egungun, the mystical masquerade that served as a bridge between humanity and eternity, and which performed the role of departed ancestors in guttural voice. Although we frequently refer to Western models of theater, African communities do have an independent genealogy of social life and literature outside of these Western models. Thus, continuities are discernible between the ancient Egungun performance and African theater practices through the ages. The Yoruba Oloruntoba itinerant performers, or Egun Alare, theatrical Egungun, derived its practice almost 100% from the spiritual Egungun of the Yoruba. As inheritors of the original mass dramaturgy of the Egungun, the itinerant Oloruntoba in turn succeeded by the Yoruba tribal theater, featuring the likes of Hubert Ogunde, Durola Dipo, Ola Ogunmola, Oyin Adejobi, Moses Oranyada Babasara, among others in Nigeria. The story of how the spiritual Egungun became the theatrical Egungun is interesting. It concerns the intrigue between the Alapini of Oyo, head of the Egungun call, spirit call, and Alaafin Atiba. Atiba ultimately caused an annual reenactment of the Egungun episode as entertainment, thus starting the tradition. It is interesting here, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, how the affairs of Egungun played into the state's practice and vice versa, and roots its metamorphoses into theater practice. From the first generation of inheritors of the Egungun tradition, such as Ogunde, Ladipo, and Ogumola, we pursue the continuities of the tradition through the works of the first and second generation of Nigerian dramatists of English expression. Here we have Wole Soyinka, John Pepper Clark, Zulu Shofola, Wale Ogunyemi, etc., first generation, and Femi Oshofuson, Bode Sowande, Holly Omotayo, and others, second generation. Oloruntoba-Oju 2013a noted that the near identical representation of the indigenous that was evident in the preceding traveling theatre tradition could not be totally replicated in the succeeding traditions due to historical factors, especially colonialism and language. The dramas of contemporary Nigerian playwrights such as Wole Soyinka, Femi Oshofuson, Bode Sowande, and others show a conscious attempt to reinscribe the indigenous in modern theatrical practice through representations that reflect the masked idiom. Oloruntoba-Oju 1987b critically examined the dirge-infused texture of Wole Soyinka's Death and the King's Husband, and how the duality of the tragic essence comes out most forcefully in performance. The recent film adaptation of the play by the late film director B. Ibandele attempted to preserve this frenetic essence of the play. Plays by Oshofison, such as Eshu and the Vagabond Minstrel and Another Route, also bear imprints of the mass medium through explorations in mythology. Biabi Jayifo noted that Oshofison's work suggests an orita, a crossroad where many possibilities intersect. In my view, the orita metaphor is also suggestive of the intersections and continuities between the past and the present, between the old Oloruntoba-Oju theatrical tradition of the ritual archetype and the contemporary realization of the tradition. Similarly, in Showande's Farewell to Babylon, the farmers engage in ritual procedure in their revolutionary bid as they seek metaphysical sustenance from the womb of the earth. The revolution in the play is arrived at by means of the collectivity of the old and the modern. Clearly, therefore, the dramas of these modern playwrights equally embrace the traditional aesthetic modes, conforming to the spontaneous expectation of the African theater audience. Perhaps the most spectacular evidence of continuity between the old theatrical traditions and contemporary performance is to be found in the video film tradition, popularly known as Nollywood. See, Oloruntoba-Oju 2006 had remarked that the propensity of Nollywood to plunge viewers straight away into the world of myth, spirits, and norms is legendary. Films by Tunde Kelani and Kunle Afolayan, easily the most important Yoruba Nigerian film directors today, among others, bear unabashed imprints of the old mass dramaturgy. Examples include Afolayan's Irapada and The Figurine, as well as Kelani's Aruba. Part of Aruba's aim is to demonstrate how aspects of the indigenous culture can contribute to social morality in contemporary time. This approach of ritual integration also activates another feature of the old Yoruba mass dramaturgy, which is the element of the audience participation. The live crowds become participants in the film and contribute to its spectacle. Saturation and approximation, continuities across time and space. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my pursuit of continuities in African theater aesthetics has also had me journeying across the seas in search of the dispersal of African theatrical aesthetics beyond the shores of Africa. See Oloruntoba-Oju 1994, Oloruntoba-Oju 1999B, Oloruntoba-Oju 2006, Oloruntoba-Oju 2012A, Oloruntoba-Oju 2012B, Oloruntoba-Oju 2012B, Oloruntoba-Oju 2014B, Oloruntoba-Oju 2014C, among others. Oloruntoba-Oju 2012C observed the existence of deep parallels between African and Caribbean life aesthetics due to a shared ancestry. Saturation refers to the extent of blackness or Africanness discovered in textual, literary, or dramatic expressions. Ancient remembrance, which I have described as embryonic memory, continues to sustain the ancient link between Africa and the Caribbean. The works of frontline Caribbean dramatists such as Derek Walcott, Errol Hill, Dennis Scott, and Ina Cizelle demonstrate embryonic memory and the African influence. However, due to the dislocation over time and space, many Caribbean representations amount to an approximation of the original African context. approximation, as elaborated in Oloruntoba-Oju 2012C, denotes the frequent attempt in Black Caribbean aesthetics to equalize the lost nuances of its African roots. It refers to aesthetic representations from fading memory. Those aesthetic elements that overtly or subtly reach out to Africa by referencing it in onomastic, geographical, psychological, historical, and racial terms. The more substantive approximation occurs via the themes of Africa, the African woman, the archetype of mother, and the overt or covert deployment of African musical paradigms in Caribbean drama. The most popular religions in the Caribbean have African roots. The following table shows some examples of places, deities, and persons which have continued into the diaspora, in this case the Caribbean, and the table will be projected, and then following will be images that also show the different and numerous theatrical versions of the Yoruba deity Shogo in the diaspora. The paradigm of the mask therefore provides a major illustration of the translation of African archetypes into Caribbean theatrical experience, continuities, performance, and resistance. It bears repeating, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, that contemporary African theater, like its indigenous precursor, exploits the dual functionality of theatrical performance, which is to entertain and educate. Revolutionary theater in Nigeria also exploits the indigenous aesthetic tradition, even as it focuses on the prospects for achieving a revolutionary change in Nigeria. In other words, the ultimate social objective expressed in revolutionary dramaturgy in theater is an egalitarian and possibly revolutionary restructuring of society. By extension, the artist must arrange and structure histrionic elements and package them to entertain and conscientize. Songs and indigenous rhythms are central to this scheme. The irresistible power of songs in resistance theater is epitomized by what Oloruntoba-Oju 2008A dubbed revolutionary musical dramaturgy. An example is the irresistible power of Femi Osofison's musical dramaturgy, which has been told in numerous anecdotes and scholarly essays. The songs not only stir audience consciousness, they also stick to the subconscious. However, beyond the mundane references to the obvious use of song, Oloruntoba-Oju 2009A provided a framework for the appreciation of these revolutionary inputs. These were described as the play as song and the song as a play model. The dialectical intersection of these models between tones and revolution, the metamorphosis of music into revolutionary codes, the synchronization of lyrics with thematic essence, the ideo-compensative infusion, and the occasional dissonance are all accounted for through these models. Play as song. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in the play as song model, dramatic sequence is conducted largely through the instrumentality of songs. At the macro level, song and dance are overtly insinuated as paramount dramaturgical motifs. For example, in plays like Okwera Wolotsi by Wole Soyinka, the chattering and the song, Yumba Yumba and the dance contest, Eshu and the vagabond minstrels, and Fiddlers on a Midnight Lark by Femi Osofison, the titles alone provoke the audience expectation of the performance as a night of performance. Also, in this model, songs are used as structuring media in the sense that they formally structure the play either in a narrative fashion or in an operatic fashion. For example, in Once Upon Four Robbers, the actor, narrator, Alpha, opens the play with a storytelling formula. Where characters break spontaneously into songs. The songs may either be motivated by dramatic action or may be unmotivated. They are motivated by dramatic action when there is some discernible cause in the sequence, e.g. a celebration or a dirge, an enhancement of characterization or embellishment of the scenario. Many such songs occur in Another Act, and I will take one here that castigates the class of corrupt, decadent leaders who have milked Nigeria dry. It goes thus. Kí ló sì jẹ́ tẹ́ ò lè fẹ́ dọ̀lóròǹro igi oró sí ẹ̀gbìn sílẹ̀ ọmọ yín àjẹ́ ń fẹ́. Kí ló sì jẹ́ tẹ́ ò lè fẹ́ dọ̀lóròǹro igi oró sí ẹ̀gbìn sílẹ̀ ọmọ yín àjẹ́ ń fẹ́. Ẹ bá yé jẹ́ tán, ẹ wá mú wa ìjìyà, ẹ ṣí sága tán, ẹ wá sọ òkò ẹ pẹ́ pé ṣìṣì bẹ́ẹ̀ fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ pọ̀ o. Igi oró sí ẹ̀gbìn sílẹ̀ ọmọ yín àjẹ́ ń bẹ bẹ́ẹ̀ fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ o. Igi oró sí ẹ̀gbìn sílẹ̀ ọmọ yín àjẹ́ ń bẹ. Song as the play, song as the play. In the song as the play model, the songs by themselves, that is by virtue of their content per se, serve as a guide to the ideological resistance or revolutionary import of the relevant play. They also serve as a direct means of social conscientization. Many plays by Hubert Ogunde had associated songs that became so popular and so effectively mobilizational that most people do not realize that the songs were originally connected to drama. I refer to dramas like Yoruba Ronu and Otito Koro and the associated popular songs. The ancient and mellifluous voice of Ogunde in these songs still creates a deep impression on the mind even today, 60 years after the original production. Let us take a quick example here. we've noted earlier. And we're also banned by the Western government. The plays is plays on account of the songs were so popular, they got banned by the Western state government under Chief Samuel Ladoke Akisola. In Otito Koro, the dramatist lashes back in performative resistance at the oppressive government. Again, the associated song continues to resonate today as a resistance song. In the song as the play model, the relevant songs are structurally located at vantage points in the sequence. For example, as opening, mid, or end songs. The latter mimics the structure of the traditional Yoruba African folklore, where the overall message or moral is placed at the end, sometimes through an explicitly exhortative song. The Farmer's Anthem in Femi Oshofison's The Chaplain and the Song is another such song. Its ideological orientation and mobilizational intent is clear. The first verse alone covers the gamut of the socialist ideology, while the second emphasizes the resistance to injustice. To all intents and purposes, the song itself is the play. And listen, the first verse, that's the only one I'll take. When everyone's a farmer, will grow enough food in the land. No insurrection when all are fed. Less exploitation, you eat all you need. So asking for a socialist revolution, as it were, this song says it all. So this is the model we are proposing, that's we are talking about here. Now, clearly in the songs in this resistance dramaturgy, whether in the model of play as song or song as the play, as proposed by Oloruntoba-Oju 2013, serve both mobilizational and resistance purposes. The two models, because that's what Oshofison is associated with. But what does the future of this resistance or revolutionary dramaturgy look like? Generational dynamics in Nigerian resistance theater. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I have also been concerned with the future of resistance performance or revolutionary dramaturgy in our society. Oloruntoba-Oju 2013b observed that by the turn of the 21st century, the revolutionary pitch in Nigerian drama had considerably lowered. The drama had produced no notable heir apparent. Put plainly, the Oshofison, Showande, Omotayo, Fatunde generation referred to above had produced no visible or notable successors. Without doubt, there has been some revolutionary appearances by the third and subsequent generations of dramatists. However, their drama has been isolated, unsustained, and practically ineffective. Revolutionary drama in Nigeria is in need of rejuvenation. My other contributions in drama and theater, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, beyond the major contributions to academia in my field, as highlighted above, I've made other contributions that are both academic and practical towards the growth of the field. As a professor of literature with focus on dramatic arts and theater, I've given pride of place in my work to the location of African literature in world literature and to the dynamics of African theater and performance within the context of ideology and aesthetics. Oloruntoba-Oju 1995, Oloruntoba-Oju 1996 investigated the role of drama in pedagogy, including the use of drama as source material for the teaching of communication in the medical class, etc. Oloruntoba-Oju 1998 looked closely at the practice of guerrilla theater, which she later, in Oloruntoba-Oju 2021, connected to the definition and practice of popular drama in Nigeria. Beyond the shores of Nigeria, Oloruntoba-Oju 2012D looked comparatively at revolutionary drama from East Africa, contending that the history of anti-colonial struggle in that region was different, citing the distinct and sustained Mau Mau struggle in Kenya. Oloruntoba-Oju 2009 also considered the role of translation, adaptation, and intertextuality in the propagation of the drama. Oloruntoba-Oju 1999b, Oloruntoba-Oju 2009a, Oloruntoba-Oju 2009b, Oloruntoba-Oju 2014a, Oloruntoba-Oju 2019 pinpointed the dynamics of tones, themes, truth, pragmatics, history, myth, aesthetics, and meta-aesthetics in African dramatics. Similarly, the stagecraft of specific Nigerian theatre directors occupied my attention in another series of articles. Oloruntoba-Oju 1987A, Oloruntoba-Oju 1987B, Oloruntoba-Oju 1990, Oloruntoba-Oju 2013C. The contested relationship between gender and creativity also occupied my attention in my interaction with one of Nigeria's foremost female writers, Mabel Shegun, Oloruntoba-Oju 2010. Along with other collaborators, I looked at aspects of gender and sexuality in literature and drama in Africa and the African diaspora. Oloruntoba-Oju 2012A, Oloruntoba-Oju and Oloruntoba-Oju 2013A, Oloruntoba-Oju 2013E, Oloruntoba-Oju 2014D, Oloruntoba-Oju 2023A. Indeed, one of my most cited works locally and internationally is the one in which we propose models of the gender trajectory in African literature. Without meaning to be modest, permit me to say, sir, that I have done quite a lot in my field as an academic. Practical contributions in the theatre. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my contributions in the areas of theatre today, theatre theory and praxis are many. Beginning as an actor and crew member dealing with small parts and small stage issues, I was to become important in several stage productions. Also, on the historic occasion of Wole Soyinka becoming a Nobel laureate, the University of Ibadan mounted a special production of his Death and the King's Horseman, and I was the production diarist. I was also stage manager for the premiere production of Oshofison's Another Raft, directed by the playwright himself, ETC, theatre workshops, and play productions. Between my first appointment as assistant lecturer in the University of Ilorin and my professorship in Adekunle Ajasin University, I have produced and directed several plays. In AAUA alone, I have handled over 50 theatre productions, including state-sponsored commissioned productions or command performances. I've been teaching theatre workshop classes for nearly 40 years. And while I have tilted more towards revolutionary plays, I've also been very intentional in promoting the concept of total theatre, Ajasin University Theatre and Convocation Play. I was the pioneer director of the Ajasin University Theatre, AVT, which I ran for 7 consecutive years. I did the 2nd to the 6th convocation plays of the university before handing over the baton. Establishment of the Performing Arts Department. By the time I had done my 3rd convocation play as acting director of AVT, it was clear to me that we needed to establish a department in the university for a more comprehensive engagement with theatre. With a nod from the Professor Femi Limpo-led administration, I worked tirelessly to draw up a complete 100 to 400 level performing arts curriculum draft. I single-handedly drew up that draft. I also prepared and led the department for the NUC verification, administrative duties. I've taken up numerous administrative duties. Some of the most important are listed in the printed lecture. Community development. Some of my other important services to the university include the following. I composed gratis the lyrics of Adekunle Ajashi University anthem. I facilitated and assisted with the design and production of the AAUA flag. And this, with the previous, earned me a written commendation from the university management and senate. I took up a number of editorial roles. I taught gratis in this university over long periods. In December 2009, I, along with other unjustly sacked Unilorin 49+ lecturers, got reinstated to the University of Ilorin after our infamous sack. I had to step down. I was head of department at the time. I had to step down as head of department here to enable me return to Ilorin in compliance with the Supreme Court reinstatement order. However, because my department here in AAUA was at the time short-staffed, I offered to continue undergraduate and postgraduate teaching and supervision here without collecting a kobo in salary and allowances. I did it for 9 full months. Thousands of books have been donated through me to both my departmental library and the Central University Library, including laptops, projectors, TV, etc. In 2018, I got AAUA enlisted on the University of Leeds Center of African Studies Lukash Book Distribution Scheme and several editions of African literature to the ALT, one of the most prestigious journals on literary and dramatic criticism in Africa, were donated to us through me. Conclusion and recommendations. Without any doubt, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, literature and theater have taught me indelible lessons about life and what makes it worth living universally. Chief of all is the promotion of justice, morality, and resistance to evil and injustice. They also taught me performance as a veritable tool for this resistance. Indeed, resistance of evil is, and has always been, a canon of literature and performance. My work is not all done, but I have come a long way. The inaugural is a definitive juncture that beckons to a new beginning. Recommendations. My recommendations are in 2 parts. The first is for the government at the national and state levels, and the second for this institution. Government should take steps to integrate drama into the curriculum of schools and institutions of learning. There is a need to harness the communal orientation of drama through the establishment of community theater programs in the universities. To AAUA, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, while acknowledging the continued support of your administration for theater work on this campus, the university needs to build a fully equipped 2,000 capacity ultra-modern theater, making it a top priority for the next step fund allocation. I also recommend the following: promotion of interdisciplinary or exchange courses between literature and theater, promotion of cross-curricular integration of drama into various courses across disciplines, establishment of an autonomous Institute of African Studies, IAS, integration of practical theater work into the reward system of performing arts lecturers as well as drama lecturers in the English department by making this intensive work of theirs count towards their promotion. Establishment of annual command performances, establishment of community theater to promote developmental programs and town and gown integration with the community, creation of a center for the training of artists from the environment to feed national cultural establishments such as Nollywood and Nollywood National Theatre, etc. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, if the above recommendations are attended to, AAUA will soon become a powerhouse of literature and theatre in Nigeria. Acknowledgements. God, to whom all things belong, everything I have achieved, from the minutest to the most spectacular, I attribute to grace. One that for me has flowed so freely and fully from the throne of grace. Inaugural said, is stupendous splendor by God, my source and sufficiency, my rock and refuge, the one to whom I return all the glory. Family and friends. Born into a middle-class family in the mid-60s, my parents named me the second of their 2 girls and 2 boys, 4 children, Omotayo, Omoladun, ni Obisheson, with the Oriki, Arika Eko, Maperikari Ayaba. Yes, I am of a proud lineage of indomitable hunters and warriors. From the famed Akoro village in Ibadan, the hotbed of the peasant-driven Agbekoya revolt of 1968 to 1969, from which the popular Nigerian playwright Femi Oshofiso drew inspiration for his most staged play, Oloruntoba-Oju. I am of that proud heritage. I would say I was privileged. It was, however, an extremely strict upbringing that I had, not one of a silver spoon in the mouth. My parents emphasized hard work and diligence. And growing up, I have no single recollection of us ever keeping domestic servants or living in extravagance, even though my parents could afford such. Rather, in between our studies and domestic chores, value system and work ethics instilled in me. I say a resounding thank you to my father, Mr. Samson Akiloye Obisheson, and my mother, Mrs. Emilia Kolade Obisheson, both alive, alert, and active to the glory of God at 84 years. My siblings, my elder sister, Mrs. Folashade Lawal, a world-class community pharmacist and fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, and our dear husband and father figure to us all, Pastor Toyin Lawal. My immediate younger brother, Bankole Obisheson, and his beautiful wife, Bimbola Obisheson, a princess of Ondo Town. The youngest of us all, Dr. Adekunle Obisheson, and his adorable wife, Olawumi Obisheson. I thank Professor Komi Abimbola and his awesome family. My loving and caring big sister, matriarch of the family, Mrs. Comfort Abimbola. The amazing children whose humility belie the giant strides. They are giant strides. Bolade, Bolajoko, Olateju, and Olabimpe, together with their spouses and children. My in-laws, immediate and extended, practically dote on me. Thank you for the largeness of your kindness towards me, the vastness of your accommodation of me. Thank you for loving me more than I could ever have hoped for. Mama Ibidun, my precious mother by marriage, whom I'm sure is online, rechristened me Oluwabumi, and never pauses to tell as many as would care to hear her. She never hesitates to tell them that she is my Oluwabumi. Thanks to the affectionate twin sister by marriage, Mrs. Kende Afolabi, who is here seated, as well as my husband's other siblings. I must make special mention of my husband's youngest sibling, Dr. Gideon Oju, for his unflinching love and gargantuan generosity. My wonderful Unilori 49 family, many of whom are here seated, and almost all others online, at home, and abroad. We met in the trenches of war. Then we became family. You have all been well acknowledged in the text of my lecture. Sincere appreciation goes to the entire Chapel of the Light, University of Ilorin family. I would like to specially thank the chaplains, three of whom are here present, teachers, mentors, schoolmates, and colleagues from other universities. A resounding thank you to my teachers, whose teachings and mentoring shape and keep shaping me. Our own Professors Oladele Awoguliyi and Tayo Olafioye, Professor Akonjinosiru, Professor Zulu Shokola, Yulisa Amadumadu, Professor Dapo Adeluba, my teacher at the University of the Theatre Arts Department, who also jointly supervised my MA dissertation with the world-acclaimed playwright, theatre arts scholar, and director, Professor Femi Oshofiso. Professor Oluwabafemi supervised my PhD. Professor Ni Oshundari, I'm sure is online, was generously supportive. His office during my UI days provided space and broader context to my budding creativity and radical ideological framing. Bayo Oduneye, Dr. Sumbo Marino, Dr. Femi Fatoba, Professor Bodesho Wande, Professor Igenius Ekwazi, Professor Larry Bamidele, Professor Matthew Mukoro, Tunji Oyelano, Jimmy Sholanke, renowned English theatre and film director Peter Group. Baba Allah came in to teach us in UI at the time. You are all acknowledged with immense gratitude. My undergraduates and postgraduate schoolmates, some of them now professors, theatre giants, veteran journalists, writers, entrepreneurs, etc. Professor Ola Yemi Akiwumi, Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Lokoja, Professor Shola Oloruntoba-Oju, Professor Wumiraji, Dr. Tunde Olusile, Yodun Abe, Mr. George Omuchekwa, Mr. Shegun Santo, and so on and so forth. It's a long list. My colleagues, friends, my colleagues were friends from other theatre and English departments, as well as institutes of African studies across the country, especially the likes of Professor Ade Adejumo, Professor Kayode Samuel, Professor Senayo Olaoluwa, Professor Bayo Aborishade, Professor Itio Babishaye, Professor Lara Oweya, among many others here present and online. Last, but by no means the least, in academia are my veteran ASU comrades and mentors, Professor Toyo Olorode, who adopted me as his daughter, Professor Udowa Adwokwetu, late Professor Tunde Oduleye, Professor Kojoaki Yonju, Dr. Dipo Fashino, Dr. Gabo Jegbile, I thank you all. The Adekule Ajah University family, Mr. Vice Chancellor. My first appointment in AAU was in January 2006. I came into the warm embrace of people who did not know me from Adam, yet opened their arms in warm embrace, in fellowship and friendship. All of them now well advanced in their careers. Professor Shola Oluboyibi, Professor Yure Lokunmeta, Professor Busoyi Mekosi, Professor Henry Orupeloye, Dr. Oluchi Gili, amongst others. Thanks to my performing arts family, Dr. Yomi Adebamide, Dr. Biola Adumasi, and the wonderful others in the performing arts department. Outside of my department, I've generally enjoyed tremendous goodwill, support, and assistance. Immense thanks to Professor Benson Akinowonu, my amiable big sister, Professor Mrs. Adebo Wale, who read through my lectures several times over, gave support. She was here through the weekend, as she gave support as our indefatigable PRO and ace broadcaster, Mr. Victor Akipelumi, prepared me for this lecture. Professor Benson Goin and many others listed in the printed lecture. I thank all members of the university management as listed, the Vice Chancellor, whom I will specially mention shortly, Professor C. Daramola, DVC Admin, Professor Olusegun Akiwumi, DVC Akad, Mr. Olugbenga Arajulu, Registrar, Mr. Toby Arena FCA Bossa, Dr. Yemisi Olorunfemi, the University Librarian, distinguished members of the University Senate, deans of faculties, heads of departments, units and centers, all other academic colleagues. My appreciation also goes to the wonderful non-academic staff that I have been privileged to work directly with, especially as I variously served as HOD and then later as director. Providence has seen me work with extremely small-minded, myopic, despotic, on-stroke anti-intellectual vice chancellors in my almost 40 years of being an academic staff. But I have also been privileged to work with some of the finest, most visionary, most deeply intellectual, highly committed, and robustly humane colleagues turned vice chancellors. Permit me to mention Professor Olufemi Mimiko and our incumbent Vice Chancellor, Professor Oluwagbenga Ige. I have worked variously with both, and I make bold to say that they embody hard work, humility, honesty, humaneness, decency, and integrity. They are fidelity. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, for a friendship that started on the ASU FGN battleground around 2001. I thank you and your beloved wife, Chief Mrs. Ellen Foluke Ige, for always readily offering me a shoulder to lean on. Thank you, Professor Mimiko, for believing so much in me and to entrust so much to me and in the process activate my creative best. Students, past and present, I'm a proud mother of many children and a child in the hands of many others. I've been privileged and lucky to meet people who have loved me like I was their biological offspring, sibling, or mother. Time and space will not allow me to mention you all. To my students, old and new, here present and there scattered across the seas, this inaugural lecture is deservedly dedicated to you. My students, they call me Mama, and I fondly call them Mommy. I thank you all. I am because you are. I am, yes, I am because of you, because you are. That's why I'm here. Thank you. God bless you. My husband and children. My beloved husband, Professor Oloruntoba-Oju. Friend, brother, partner, confidant, companion, comrade, co-traveler, soulmate, my alter ego, and affectionate husband. The one person I have spent the most years of my life, and by extension argued and disagreed the most with. Yet that one person who has patiently and lovingly traversed the nooks and crannies of this earthly space with me and has taken domiciliation in my heart. I know not what words to deploy to fully appreciate a man who from pillar to post has been my backbone and kindred spirit. Thank you for being my rock and for making my life rock. Thank you for teaching me that love isn't a fairy tale. Thank you for teaching me that love isn't a fairy tale, but a procurable, workable, and securable venture. Indeed, as in the words of Emily Bronte, whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. My priceless children, Irise, Ademaki, and dear Connie Arato-Yimika, thank you for choosing us as from the multitude of potential parents, and thank God for the unquantifiable gift of you to us. Our Irisa is a medical doctor in Shands Children's Hospital, Gainesville, Florida, and has gifted us a high-flying, beloved son, Odunton Odubanjo, and two beautiful granddaughters, Oluwani Misoko and Oluwafifebomi. Ademaki is a development engineer in Canada and has also blessed us with the gift of an additional adorable daughter, Oluwabukola, and two precious grandsons, Irawo Oluwa and Imole Oluwa. Dear Connie Arato-Yimika, author and fifth-year PhD student of anthropology and African studies at Harvard University, USA, is here present with her fiance, Teniola Tonade, also a PhD student of African studies. I thank them both for reading through this lecture many times over. My adopted daughter, Esther Atiba, gifted us by my ABC driver for 5 years, Mr. Akintoye Atiba and his wife. Other children by adoption who have invested and keep investing enormous time and resources in me and my entire family, and who directly contributed to making this inaugural a huge success. Dr. and Mrs. Tosin Bogi, I'm sure they are all online. Dr. Shefumi Akeju, Mr. and Mrs. Seun Kolade, Dr. and Mrs. Peter Isiaka, Dr. Daniel Ajayi, Adeyinka Adebowale, Olumide Akinowonu, Ademeso Adeyemi, Mary Nriabo, Tomide, Oloruntobi, Bushro, Anima Shaun, and Khalid Badar. Wonderful children all. I profusely thank Professor and Mrs. Olotua for their unwavering and unparalleled love for me, and all members of the organizing committee as variously listed in my lecture. And just as I was putting finishing touches to this abridged version of my lecture, some of my former Unilorin schoolmates, as listed, reached out to me in love and generosity. Thank you. Finally, I thank you all for the honor done me this day. My list is long. I have a list. My uncle is here. He was to represent when we thought my father, my parents would not be able to come. My uncle is here with his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Akisho Adeyemi. They are here. I thank them. My aunt is here. My mother's younger sister, Mrs. Inaugural, and her son is here to represent her children. Her son, Ayo, and his wife, Fumi Ogunlade. Thank you all. Permit me, finally, I thank you all, everyone, for the honor done me this day. I crave your indulgence. To end this historic lecture, there are so many of my colleagues, I didn't even invite them. They came from EXU, from FUTA, from Adeleke University, all over. Thank you all. I crave your indulgence to end this historic lecture with a message of hope. A message of hope. We need it at a time like this. As encapsulated in the sound of hope that Oshofis of closes is Morontodo with. And I'll sing the song. You can join. It's a 3-line song. Be always like this day beside me. Be always like this day beside me. We're hope like a drum. We're hope like a drum. It never fades. It never fades. It never fades.
Please, let's have a seat. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you have just listened to Professor Omotayo, Oloruntoba-Oju. Please, let's put our hands together for her. Well, I want to say, I'm sure you are not all disappointed, and I'm sure you enjoy a lecture. Please put your hands together for her once again. I now have the honor to invite to the microphone the Vice Chancellor of this university for his closing remarks. Mr. Vice Chancellor.
Greatest Nigerians today. Thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a professorial inaugural. The title, what literature told me, what the theater taught me, performance and resistance across time and space. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this inaugural is revolutionary. And like the MC said, we are not disappointed about the quality of mind that Professor Mrs. Oloruntoba-Oju is made of. Let me once again congratulate you, ma, for this. Like you rightly pointed out, we met several years ago. And since that 2001, and then in extension 2006, when you came here, when I was the chairman of ASU, I have not one day doubted your diligence and integrity at work. When I was Deputy Vice Chancellor, we worked closely together as head of Department of Performing Arts, as Director at Ajash University Theatre. But one thing is certain, we were always on the side of the truth. I'm happy for you today because it was actually a long journey. But we thank God for what God has done in your life and the life of Oga. I want to recognize a few eminent personalities in our midst. And let me start with my Oga, the husband of the inaugural lecturer, Professor Oloruntoba-Oju. Yes. Our past crossed together at the same time with the wife. When Professor Oloruntoba-Oju was the chairman of ASU, University of Ilorin. And I always, each time we traveled for Zona NEC at Ilorin, the meetings were held in their sitting room. All chairmen, executive members of ASU in our zone in their sitting room. And Professor will be running up and down to make sure that all of us were satisfied with drinks, with food, and everything. In spite of the situation that time. But today, it's now history. I want to thank God for your lives and the life of our professor. Dear Kara, Oloruntoba-Oju, the daughter. I understand you are here with your fiancé. Where is he? The lucky man. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me also use this opportunity and use dear Kara as a point of contact to other siblings of Professor Oloruntoba-Oju for your donation to this university during our last convocation ceremony. Thank you very, very much. Baba and Mama, Mr. Kinloyi Obisheson, and engineer Mrs. Kolade Obisheson. I want to thank you for what you have done in the life of Professor Mrs. I read in details everything, how you brought her up, taking Ogi and Akara several times, but today she's what she is. We thank you, Daddy and Mommy. God will continue to spare your life, and God will continue to uphold you for now and forever. Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Olashade Olufunke Lawa, sister, Mrs. Olashade Olufunke Lawal, sister. Thank you for coming, ma. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oluwatoyin Lawal, brother-in-law. Oluwatoyin Lawal. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming, sir. I suspect Olashade Olufunke Lawal is your wife. Yes, all right. So Mr. and Mrs. Oluwatoyin Lawal. Kehinde Afolabi, sister-in-law. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Mrs. Atiba Esther. Thank you for, okay, it's Miss Atiba Esther. Thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, let me specially recognize one of our own, former professor in this university, professor of microbiology, University of Ilorin, a former head of Department of Computer Science in this university, a former director of academic planning in this university, a former head of Department of Microbiology in this university. Professor Oju Akinyanju. Oga, thank you very much. Thank you so much for all you have done for us. We recognize your efforts in most of us, what you have done for us. You and the late Baba Oduleye, yes, you and late Baba Oduleye. Sir, thank you so much. Let me also thank you for all your advice and support when I was chairman of ASU in this university. Thank you so much, Oga. Yes. Professor Wumi Raji, who is a professional colleague of the inaugural lecturer. Thank you, Prof. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Professor Debo Ajayi from Ekiti State University. Professor Debo Ajayi, thank you for coming. Thank you. Dr. Okwadokun Olufunke, friend of the inaugural lecturer. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Mrs. F. Olaoye, friend of the inaugural lecturer. Thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, we have in our midst a brother and a colleague, the Vice Chancellor of Federal University, Lokoja, Professor Olayemi Akewumi. Thank you, Prof. Thank you for coming. Professor Akewumi is a friend of this university. I won't tell you all that he did, but he was instrumental to our Faculty of Allied Health Sciences and Computing. He will remember. Thank you once again, Prof. Thank you. Professor Kola Oloruntoba-Oju, Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences, Federal University, Lokoja. Where is he? All right. Thank you. Another of our Oga is also here. Professor Peter Aborishade, Federal University of Technology, Akure. Yes, thank you, Prof. Thank you. Venerable Sam Alabi, retired. Holy Trinity Anglican Church. Professor O.O. Adeshino, University of Ilorin. Professor O.O. Adeshino. It's not here, right? Dr. Esho Obielona, University of Ilorin. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming. Professor O.K. Oweye, Ekiti State University. Thank you for coming, ma'am. Thank you. Dr. O. Adeosun, Ekiti State University. Thank you. Thank you, Doc. Dr. Ladeba Migoye, Ekiti State University. Thank you. Thank you. Pat Ano, who is a friend and a sister. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mrs. Shola Ojegbile, a friend. Dr. Gabriel, okay, Dr. and Mrs. Gabriel Ojegbile, they are here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. and Mrs. Adeyelu, Mr. and Mrs. Adeyelu, thank you. Thank you for coming. These are gentlemen, all members of the Chapel of Light, Chapels of Light, University of Ilorin, Reverend Professor C. Ogunkunle, Professor Ademola Popola, Venerable Dr. J. O. Osaji, Dr. Ezekiel Adegbole, Reverend E.S. Alasan, Boluwaji Akinshola, Dr. Y.O. Oluwafisan, Dr. Y.O. Okay, Mr. C.O. Akintola, Mr. D. Taye, Ajayi ROF, Adeshina Tio, Mrs. Adano Olayemi, all of Chapel of Light, University of Ilorin. And we have also in our midst, who incidentally is also one of us, a professor of entomology from the Federal University of Technology, Professor C.O. Adedire. Thank you for coming, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also appreciate all our deans of faculties, our professors, the heads of departments, all members of staff, and students of this great institution, and in particular, the next inaugural lecturer, Professor Uriel Okurimeta. His inaugural lecture is February 25th, 2025. On behalf of the university management, I appreciate you all, and I wish you safe journey back to your various destinations. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you very much for making this program part of your day. We have come to the end of that program, and I have this following announcement. ASU members are to converge at the ASU Secretariat for their entertainment, while SANU members are to converge at SANU Secretariat. Also, NASU members are to converge at the General Cooperative Building beside Zenith Bank, and while guests from Ilorin, friends and family of the celebrant, are to converge at ASU Cooperative Building along Sports Complex. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of this university, we thank you very, very much for making this program part of your day. Shall we all rise as we take the AAUA anthem and the national anthem?
já sí fásitì.